What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Kick-Ass Podcast. We're back here today to discuss a couple of things outside of the ring. Nothing too crazy, but something that really piqued my interest. So I decided to take a couple minutes here and discuss it with you guys. This is pretty much not a full recap of the Cody Rhodes interview that he did on Busted Open this morning with host Dave LaGreca, co-host Bully Ray, and Mark Henry. Shout out to them guys. They do a kick-ass show. I was able to see one of their live shows during WrestleMania weekend. I believe it was on Saturday. Um, didn't get the pink robe. I was bummed about that, but it was still very cool. I got a picture with Dave LaGreca. I'll have to post that. Just realized I didn't post that, so shame on me. But yeah, shout out to them guys. Of course, they are great. But yeah, Cody Rhodes, and if you have been following Cody during his departure from WWE, even before AEW was a thing on his independent run, he was very involved with Busted Open. Not as a host or anything like that, but he was a frequent call-in, right? And a frequent guest, whatever you call it. Him and Dave had some beef there for a while, which is always entertaining. And Cody's has said some very interesting things about Dave on the air to his, well, I guess not to his face, but maybe if they were video chatting, but ear to ear, whatever you'll call it. But it's so cool, and it's there's just a different version of Cody, and that's what I was bringing all that up to say, and kind of get to the point of Cody Rhodes is different when he's on Busted Open. Today it was definitely a video chat, I guess, interview that they did, which was very cool. He had a beautiful suit on, so shout out to him for that. And checking his Twitter, he said that he'd only got like I think it was like 45 minutes of sleep. Cody Rhodes, that is. He mentioned that I think something with Libby, his daughter. He something Libby curls and said knees, hand or knees, toes, something like that, and something regarding needing some band-aids, and he only ended up getting 45 minutes of sleep because of it. So shout out to him. Like first of all, I'm not a morning person, and then second of all, I had to be dealing with a baby, which she seems like a fabulous child. So shout out to them. But regardless, just dealing with a small child, a small human, during the wee hours of the night when you're trying to sleep, you have stuff you have to do early in the morning, a video, interview nonetheless. And Cody's that guy to be sharp dressed, that's one of the things he always gets some shit on. Is always being in a suit, right? And he, like I said before, like he's been doing that since the early independent days, right? Since the Cracker Barrel days with the Young Bucks. That's always gonna be in my brain when I think of Cody in the suit. It's just him sitting in the rocking chairs outside of Cracker Barrel with the Young Bucks in his suit still. So that's why it's funny to me, for some of the newer fans of Cody who have just recently found him, which is nothing wrong with that, Like I'm a newer fan to a lot of other wrestlers who people have been fans of for years. But it's just funny to see like, oh, like is this a new thing? Like, why is this guy wearing a suit? And it's like been asking that shit for what 6 years now. So he's just kind of embraced that, right? That's his moniker. That's his look now. And it always makes me wonder if he ever turns to be a bad guy. Like, what is he gonna ditch the suits? Is it gonna be all black suits? Like, what's gonna change in that regard? So I'm not gonna go down that tangent right now because if I do, this will be an hour long podcast, if not longer. But I say that to say like he's the champ, man. Like he embodies the role, and he always talked about wanting to be the quarterback, wanting to show up, wanting the ball, and would have never guessed that he only got 45 minutes of sleep from the interview that he did. That's definitely making its rounds already. So with that long spiel being said, thank you guys as always for checking out the show and checking out the podcast. I truly appreciate it. You can follow me on Twitter at ASHMANNS or the show's Twitter page at @KickAssPodcast_. You can listen, view on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, whatever you want to do, whatever you want to view and listen at. You guys know what to do at this point. I think we all do at this point because social media and just streaming and just everything is just everything. Everything is everything and everywhere now. It's just crazy. Um, but we're going to take a look at the interview, like I said, here with Cody Rhodes, and the Busted Open crew, and then we'll take a look at Brian Gewirtz. Is it Ger? I never get it right the first time. It's Brian Gewirtz. Gewirtz. I thought that's what it is, and I always question myself, but it is Gewirtz, R at the end. His kind of response to what Cody was supposed to do when the infamous Rock and Cody first met up on nights. I think it was in Alabama. That episode of SmackDown in Alabama, pretty much when Cody was handing over the reins to Roman, if we want to go that route. But then we'll also talk about a contract that's reportedly set to expire at the end of this month with AEW. Someone who works more so behind the scenes than we've seen them on TV. So it'll be interesting to take a quick look at that. And they'll actually kind of tie in with what we're discussing here as well. But again, guys, with that being said, we're going to take a look and get into the interview itself here now. One of the main takeaways that's kind of making the rounds on the old Twitterverse is it's always gonna be Twitter to me. Is one of the quotes that he says regarding when he found out that, and it was revealed that he's going to mention in the documentary that WWE did, I guess in the build to WrestleMania, or it's maybe either the build to WrestleMania or the Royal Rumble. I'm not sure exactly which documentary, but he reveals when he found out about The Rock being inserted and pretty much them wanting to go the route of Rock and Roman instead of possibly him in the main event. So that was pretty interesting to find out. He says, quote, one thing that might be revealed in the documentary and might put things in a different perspective for people is I found I find out about the possibility of The Rock versus Roman Reigns the day of the Royal Rumble. And I had to leave that room, head up, and make sure no one knew that could possibly happen. And no one knew that could possibly happen, and probably one of the more difficult days I've ever had in the wrestling business. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, you are pretty much on line to, okay, like we're on the same page. I'm winning the Rumble, and I'm sure in wrestling, right? Especially if you do WWE and the Vince era, which is crazy to still say. Um, things change at the last minute and things can change day of, right before you go out. Things can be canceled right before it happens. And that's just the stuff that we heard and that we continue to hear. We don't hear it nowhere near as much, and I don't think we have at all, honestly, since Triple H has taken over. But we've all heard, if you've been a pretty long term wrestling fan, that things change at the last second, right? So while yes, he was being told pretty much, I'm sure, for weeks leading into the Royal Rumble this year that he's winning, he's going to be facing Rumble, and then I'm not sure if they would have discussed who's actually winning at WrestleMania at that point, but at least the foundation that he's going to the Rumble, he's going to repeat, go back to back for the first time in what, 26 years or something, and he's going to face Roman. Find out day of, again, he says the possibility, and again, possibility being a keyword there as well, right? He finds out the possibility of The Rock versus Roman Reigns day of Royal Rumble. And he had to leave that room, head up, and make sure no one knew what could possibly happen, and which was probably one of the most difficult days that he's had in his wrestling career, right? In the wrestling business. So, and it's crazy for me as a fan to think that too, because I was at the Rumble that night. And to think, now granted, I wasn't close enough to see like actual like I mean I could see his face, but like not to like, oh, like exactly is he crying? Is like how emotional is he? You could see the happiness, right? And I have some videos posted, but unless you're front row, the first couple sections, it's kind of make out sometimes. But you could see and you could feel the passion, and obviously everyone there wanted and just dying for Cody to win, which is surreal to be involved in as well, right? Because Plunkett just came back, and obviously we didn't know he was hurt at that time, but everyone, I thought that the fans were going to be more torn between Punk and Cody, but that just solidifies as well the love and the drive and the fan base that is there for Cody and still is. So, and he discusses that in his Busted Open interview as well. The fact that the fans just how what he does for his students at the Nightmare Factory in Atlanta, his wrestling training school, he when he teaches them and talks to them about being over, he uses guys like The Rock, John Cena, Roman Reigns of that caliber to show the example of being over. And he said he felt it, and he first felt it when the people were chanting Rocky sucks and booing The Rock, and even people who were wearing Rock t-shirts, they were booing The Rock and saying like fuck you Rock, fuck you Rocky. Um and people who grew up with The Rock, right? So for those people to turn on The Rock, but not turn on The Rock, yes, but not a permanent turn, right? At least in this situation, they're like, no, like, yeah, Rock, you're cool, but like not now, like fuck you, man, like not right now, type shit. You know what I mean? Um, so for him to see that, and for him to finally feel that then, and to see how this was the plan, and this was confirmed to be the plan as of Royal Rumble, and that the possibility was there that The Rock and Roman Reigns was going to take over WrestleMania instead. And for him to go out there and still deliver the performance that he did, and still point to the sign too. Part of me wonders, like, maybe like in that Roman Reigns and stuff like that, like if he should or should not have been so Roman centric at that point. But part of me is wondering if he was just like, fuck it, like I'm shooting my shot. Like literally, he did the bullet gun, the finger gun gesture as well. So for him to know that earlier in the day and then still be gung ho, like I kind of have more respect for him. You know what I mean? He did in a respectful way. And again, that's just pure speculation on my part, right? Just kind of picking there, but yeah, like it's very interesting, very interesting. So with that being said, we did get a response, like I said, from Brian Gewirtz. I think I got it right there. But he apparently, and now I did not hear this one. I'm just reading a transcription from Wrestle Purist, so shout out to them. Um, this wasn't in direct, obviously, response to what Cody Rhodes just stated there on Busted Open, but it is in regards to kind of that same time frame and that's that same area of time, which I guess is time frame, but because I'm pretty certain that had to have been, if my memory serves me correctly, that had to have been the Friday right after the Royal Rumble the previous Sunday. So really think it is. So this is kind of like the aftermath of, okay, Cody finds out or whatever in the afternoon, the Royal Rumble, that yes, he's still winning and that plan is still in motion, but they're moving more towards possibly Rock and Roman at WrestleMania instead. So Brian goes on the Ringers Masked Man show. So shout out to them. And again, this transcription is from WrestlePeer, so thank you to them for typing it out. And Brian states that the segment in which Rhodes stepped aside for The Rock was meant to be far more uplifting, although Gewirtz understands Cody's display of emotion, rather. He says, quote, the idea was supposed to be, it's like the Nixon-Kennedy debate a little bit where you read the transcript, you're like, Nixon kicked his ass. If you watch the actual footage, oh, he was a sweaty, terrible mess. Cody, it was supposed to be in some form. Yeah, fucking A, go get him, Rock. You're going to get your ass kicked. Roman, let's do this. In this uplifting promo. Instead, he looked like someone shot his dog in the face in the parking lot. That, I don't think, helped matters. It might not have changed or affected anything. Certainly on paper, I don't blame Cody for that. He's real and one of the realest people I've ever met. So, pretty extreme there with shooting the dog in the face, but again, I know I've said some crazy shit. But I don't blame Cody. I probably would have done the exact same thing. He's if I know myself, the face that Cody made is probably what my face would have done, if not something even far crazier. So again, props to Cody, because I can only imagine how he felt, right? And of course, now in hindsight, we know exactly what happened, and thankfully, things happened the way they did. But man, like I, um, Brian, the way I can hear, like I've only heard a couple interviews from Brian Gewirtz, um, but I can hear him. But yeah, fucking A, go get him, Rock. I can hear that him saying that in my head. It's crazy. Like I said, I've only heard a couple interviews from him. But I really like. I want to go check this out because he's a very intriguing and engaging uh, interviewer or interviewee, I guess rather. And he hasn't done many as far as I know. So that's pretty cool, right? That they got them. So shout out to the Ringers Masked Man show for that coup there. But I mean, again, like if I'm Cody Rhodes, I don't blame him. I would have had the same reaction. I probably, like I said, would have had a far worse reaction. So yeah, like I don't really know what anyone would have expected. Like, you really want Cody to go out there and be like, "Oh, kumbaya, kumbaya," like with a Rock, like, "Yeah, go get her, Rock," like fucking A, like go get him, like go kill Roman, like no, like this dude. If I'm Cody, like I just went through essentially 2 years of bullshit, right? Like, and again, like he's been placed very well, right? So let's not like be like, "Woe is me" too much, but if things didn't transpire the way they did, right, and if they ended up going Rock Roman and Cody was just left to face Seth. And again, no disrespect to Seth because that would have been fantastic. Um, but if you're Cody Rhodes, right? If I go through the first year of bullshit, right? Like I tear my pec, I come back, I go through like I win the Rumble, I come back and I go through Brock Lesnar, I go through all this shit, right? Like I go through War Games, all this stuff. I win the Rumble again, all to be positioned to face and redeem my what I still say is a bullshit loss at WrestleMania 39. Yes, obviously I'm super stoked that he won this year. Uh, Selfishly, I'm happy I got to be there for it, right? Like it was a big year, like it's cool, like it was at WrestleMania 40, like all the other little things that kind of play into it, yeah. But man, like I still don't think it would have been the wrong move to put the title on Cody on WrestleMania 39. Like, did he lose anything this past year or the past year leading up to WrestleMania 40? No, absolutely not. And his star just grew. But I don't think it would have. I think it would have maybe there's a case that I wouldn't have grown as much, right? Because that ambition and that drive and that hunger still wouldn't be there, and that's in that same light of chasing the end of the story, right? And trying to finish his story and the end goal. But it still could have been like, okay, like he completed that chapter. Now we're on to the next. Now we're going through the opponents. Now we're going through the challengers. Now we're setting up different stories, right? And you still have the stuff going on with the bloodline completely separate. So I don't know, man. Like I still will die on that hill that he should have and could have won last year at WrestleMania 39. But I get, and I don't know. Like I still don't buy that they were thinking long term. Like okay, you're not gonna win at 39, but you're definitely gonna win at 40. Because look at what happened at the Royal Rumble. Like how quick they were. Okay, Rock is back. Like no disrespect, Cody, but it's Rock and Roman now. Like he wouldn't have finished his story then. If the fan backlash wasn't there, Cody wouldn't have finished his story. If and this is coming straight from Cody, right? So who how can we not believe it, right? If what he's saying is true, that they told him that day on Royal Rumble that it's possibly going to be Rock and Roman, the whole okay, Cody losing at 39, redeeming it at 40, it would have been a squash, right? Like, yeah, like he most likely would have won a championship from Seth, but no, like that wasn't the story. So now you're just kind of just doing like a little play card, right? And a little placeholder for in the actual title that Cody wants and the one that has the lineage that he wants and that the story was geared around, right? So it's just very convoluted and that's why I I'm very thankful that things turned out the way they did this year. We'll just say that at WrestleMania 40. Because I could continue on and on about that, but it is what it is. You know, quick break. Okay, let me some ginger ale. If they ever looking to sponsor a little big podcast, Kick Ash Podcast is open. Um, but again, it looks like Brian. I don't know how long the interview was with Brian, but it's on the Masked Men, the Ringers Masked Men show. So go check that out if you want to check out the full interview there. But a couple more things from that the busted up interview, and then we'll get on to the possible departure from AEW unless a contract or a renewal rather is obtained, unless it has been already, and we just aren't aware. But with Cody Rhodes specifically, he did reference as well a couple things. I'll reference this really quick first. He mentioned that he is possibly looking in the market for a classic and an old school type of manager. He said it was really apparent to him when this past Friday when he was in the ring with Logan Paul. Paul had his entourage and his lawyer and people like that behind him, and Cody was out there solo. So he said that kind of stood out to him, and I believe that's what he was referring to when he said he was speaking with Brandy this morning about. It could have been something else. Oh no, that was about his bus, about the year that he's had, about his bus or just catching on fire in Philadelphia WrestleMania week. It was fucking crazy. Um, but he could be in the market for an old school manager type. So I think that would be fucking fantastic. He referenced when he had Arn Anderson in AEW. Excuse me, and how it was good to have someone just keep him on track, um, and just kind of hype him up and let him embrace his ego a little bit at certain points. So I don't know if it's a little seed or just some wishful thinking or what there, but that's pretty intriguing to me because I think that you can go a lot of ways and of course, people say Paul Heyman, and Paul Heyman is a go-to for a lot of people, right? But I think Heyman would think that would be so fucking intriguing. But we'll save that for a little bit later down the road. But man, like I just think that'd be very intriguing. Unless he's thinking old school, like having a woman be the manager, the valet type, right, and having Brandy back and be out there with him. I just don't see them bringing Brandy until he goes on this heel run. Although I don't think maybe the WWE fans will have as much backlash for the duo as the AEW fans did. But yeah, I think that's a possibility, and I think I'm here for it. He definitely doesn't need anyone to speak for him, right? But I think just something about managers just add obviously another layer, right? Two people, common sense, but just it just really adds just another depth to that character. Is in my eyes what it really brings out. Even someone like a CM Punk, CM Punk is probably the last person who needs a manager and needs someone to speak for him. But he was a Paul Heyman guy back in 2012, 2013. And he had Paul Heyman with him when he was on that historic run. So I think you could kind of have Heyman in that route for Rhodes. And again, we're way far off from that. Heyman is still very much intertwined with the bloodline, and I don't even know how that would happen. And again, I'm not going to speculate on that right now, but I just think that would be really cool. But yeah, it was pretty just intriguing to hear him say that. Now, regarding the gift that The Rock handed back to him on Monday Night Raw, the Raw after Mania. Again, this actual transcription is from CagesideSeats.com, rather. So shout out to them. They were talking about, of course, what happened, and then Mark Henry speculated that perhaps Rock handed Cody Rhodes some money to pay off a bet about how the weekend in Philadelphia would unfold, and Cody said that wasn't it. Cody said, it wasn't a dollar, it was I try to make a positive overture and Olive Rock and the Seven Bucks team because I have been respectful for what they've done. They set the table so that I can. He did not feel that it. He did not feel that that was a positive overture and handed it back to me. That's the best I can give you. But I was pretty heart stricken over the fact that it came back. But if anything, like Triple H told me, it's not fun and games for these guys. They're coming for you, and you either get ready or you don't. And then some people in like the individual on cage seats. I want to say cage match. Cage seats is referring to is possibly a custom Rolex because Cody Rhodes had given one to Seth and apparently a few others out that were custom Rolexes rather as a olive branch and as a sign of respect and as a thank you and just a feel good gift, and possibly that's what the Rock handed him back. Some people have speculated that it was like a lighter or something like that, signifying that that Rock set Rose's bus on fire. And it isn't, and to be fair, he did bring up the bus catching on fire again in the interview. So, and that was unprompted. So, I'm just saying, my money isn't necessarily on that. But if they want to make The Rock be like a sadistic and just mean motherfucker, like you could say that. Because I think then at some point he said, like, I don't give a fuck about your dog or some shit like that. So, yeah. But Cody Rhodes did okay, yeah, he continued selling in a busted open by drawing comparisons to the Star Wars franchise to sum up his issue with The Rock. He says, if we're looking at Star Wars parallels, I feel like we're maybe past Return of the Jedi at this point. Here's the struggle I have with a person like The Rock. I know what's underneath there. I know inside he's the people's champion. I was the biggest Rock fan growing up. I know he's in there. That's not what Return. We got the final boss. We got the cursing. We got an unbelievably gritty and formidable. If you look at just his size compared to most wrestlers of the day in terms of his athletic ability and his size, I just wish the relationship had been different, and I can't sit here hoping for that forever. I can't sit here saying, man, I'd like to bring the real people's champ back. I really would because I think that's what's underneath there, but perhaps The Rock is too far gone. So again, guys, my money is still that we're gonna get Rock and Cody. I said SummerSlam. Maybe that's too early. Again, sorry guys. I just need some ale of the ginger. But yeah, I like I said, I kind of threw out there Rock and Cody at SummerSlam. Yes, obviously that's a huge match, and you can push for WrestleMania. But depending on how much longer Rock really wants to be involved, like in the ring wise, and I think I'm sure he had fun, right? I'm sure he had a shit ton of fun this past run. So maybe he's like that, like fired him back up. He's like, like I'm good. Like I didn't get injured. We're good. Like we're money. Let's go. Um, so maybe he's just feeling it out and just kind of going, day by day, show by show type thing. But if he's thinking long term, he's still got 2, 3-ish more years, he being Rock. I could see him wanting to do Cody and Rock at Roman, or at Roman, Cody and Rock at WrestleMania 40, or gosh, wait, geez. Cody and Rock at WrestleMania 40. Let's try that again, and then have that lead on to Rock and Roman finally at WrestleMania 42. Now that's way far out, and we have a lot of other moving factors and parts, and the shit that's going on with the bloodline right now, how they're pretty much being divided. Where is Roman going to stand when he gets back? There's so many different things. So that's still a up in the air type of question, up in the air type of deal as well. But again, we see from what Cody said that when Rock comes back and he's ready, things change, and it almost doesn't matter what's going on. But again, I'm not sitting here bitching about it. I am appreciative because that's a few times that we've heard a similar story, or if not the same, damn near the same uh synopsis of what came out from the Royal Rumble weekend. So the fact that they were possibly going Rock and Roman this year, and the fact that they heard the fans, they heard the backlash, they saw the response online, the "We Want Cody" and things like that, and they listened and they actually diverted back or stayed on the original track. I think that's great, and I think that's a great sign going forward, and I give them props for that, and I appreciate that as a fan. You know what I mean? It really does feel like your voice is heard. Now it could be full of shit, you know what I mean, and it could have just been like, okay, we'll do Rock and Roman at WrestleMania 40 and cool beans. And if people get upset and if there's any type of backlash, if because if Cody was like, I don't think people are gonna like that, and Triple H could have been like, okay, yeah, if they holler back at us that they're mad or whatever, well, we can think about going back or plugging the Rock in or plugging you in or whatever. But the fact that they completely diverted all that and they went right back to Cody and Roman. I respect that, so shout out to them for that. But with that being said, guys, that wraps up the Cody Rhodes portion of the interview and of the show here today. The last thing I wanted to touch on was the rumor and the reporting, rather, or maybe not rather, but both, of a potential AEW star. Their contract reportedly set to expire at the end of this month. So it turns out that Mark Henry, speaking of Busted Open, his AEW contract is reportedly set to expire at the end of this month, which would be May. And again, this is from WrestlePeers.com, but I believe they got it from Fightful Select. So shout out to Fightful Select. Russell Pierce transcription states, since joining All Elite Wrestling at Double or Nothing 2021, Mark Henry has worked as an analyst, coach, scout, and mentor, with his most recent on-screen contributions seeing him act as an interviewer for AEW Rampage. His time with the company may soon be coming to an end, however, as Fightful Select is now reporting that Henry's AEW contract is set to expire this month. Fightful Select's Sean Ross Sapp, Sean, is told that Mark Henry's AEW contract is set to expire this month. There we go. Henry has has previously teased returning to action for one last match, although he's also added that he's unclear as to what it'd take to make it happen. The former World Heavyweight Champion's last in-ring outing came during WWE's Greatest Royal Rumble in 2018, with his last singles match being in February 2017. Wow, that's crazy. I didn't realize it was that long ago. But yeah, obviously, he's probably doing a lot more for them backstage. And if you watch Rampage, he is on Rampage. But yeah, it's just saying they didn't get more out of him on screen. And again, not saying I wanted him on there wrestling or even on commentary, like weekly or anything like that. But I just think that he could have, I don't know, with certain talent and certain big guys, I think that he could have maybe been a manager or maybe been like an additional enforcer for someone. I don't know, just something. I just feel like they could have gotten maybe a little bit more, and maybe they have gotten a lot out of him behind the scenes, right? And I'm not saying that they haven't, But I just feel like if you have a mind like that and you have a name like that, then kind of take advantage of it more, you know what I mean? And pick the brain more and with certain booking things and certain guys that you're booking, like I hope Mark was involved in certain, like certain big guys matches. Like who better than him to kind of give not even direction, but be like, hey, like yeah, do this move, but maybe like not at this moment, like save it for a different portion of the match or whatever, like or if you're doing this, like don't do this or whatever. Like I just feel like they probably could have got a little bit more out of that, but we'll see. And it'll be interesting to see if he renews with AEW or if he departs and if he just sticks with his busted open gig or if he decides to go back to WWE. I think he has a great scout and a great eye for talent. He, of course, was the one who found Bianca Belair, Jade Cargill, Samantha Irvin, I believe, as well. So that's just three right off the bat. And I mean, you can take a look at their contributions already. I think Samantha Irvin's probably one of the best ring announcers in quite some time. If and she's making a case for ever, one of the best ever. And just the emotion that she brings, the sound, just the just something about her. She makes you believe, but she doesn't make it feel like it's forced or anything like that. Like she just it's a genuine emotion. So and of course Bianca Belair and Jay Cargill, like I mean they speak for themselves, right? But I think Mark Henry would be a good coup back for WWE in regards to scouting and things like that as well. And if he's willing to wrestle another match and he's serious about getting back in the ring, like making it mean something, and I think he could really elevate maybe certain talent. But TBD on that one, and it'll be interesting to see what he ends up doing if this is true and where he goes. But with that being said, thank you guys so much for checking out the show. I really appreciate it. Tonight we have Monday Night Raw. Be checking that out. Probably not going to do a review on Monday Night Raw. I'll probably do a show later in the week. Do a recap of some things that are going on, and we'll touch base and just go from there. We will be doing a preview show though as well, so we'll definitely be getting that taken care of for Double or Nothing. So get a separate show out for that. But as always, thank you guys so much for checking out the show again. I really appreciate it. Feel free to follow me on Twitter if you haven't already at Kickash Podcast underscore or me personally at ASHMANNS. And you can follow the show on YouTube as well. I just got the name. And on TikTok, I post a couple things on TikTok, but nothing crazy there on the show's page. Just little things just to use the page, I guess. But thank you guys so much again. I really appreciate it. Enjoy some wrestling, guys, and stay safe out there.